Hey everybody, Jake here and welcome to the hobby. This is a video I have been super excited about making for a long time. Around a month ago, we sent away some Pokemon cards to CGC for grading. CGC is a brand new Pokemon card service that focuses around grading Pokemon cards very similar to PSA or BGS, and we wanted to send away some Pokemon cards to see how they stack up versus the other card grading services. We sent in a ton of different types of Pokemon cards, including vintage Japanese, modern Japanese, vintage English, modern English, and even an error card just to test it out. And I'm really excited to see what kind of grades we get from CGC. If you did not see our original video, I highly recommend you check it out. Link to it in the description. We cover all kinds of different topics, including what professional graders look at when they grade your Pokemon cards. As well, we sort of predicted for fun what kind of grades our Pokemon cards would get once they return. So I think this will be a lot of fun and I'm super excited to crack this baby open. So let's get right into it. When this box arrived, I did not even know it was our CGC return because the label actually does not say that they're from CGC, which I think is really weird. And then I recognized the packaging as, oh yeah, this is how Pokemon cards graders usually send back their cards to us inside of these really tightly taped boxes. So that's when I recognized that it was CGC. But boy, CGC, first rule, you definitely need to actually put your company name on your label. It's going to cause a lot of issues. I think a lot of people aren't going to recognize when they receive cards from you. All right, last bit of tape and we're through. So let's see what our grades are. Oh, this is cool. This is cool. I dig the case. Wow, check that out. That is fancy. I think this is the first time that a grader has actually given me something to put my cards in. So no peeking on the grades. You can't see anything yet. All right, all right. Okay, we see some real interesting one. I can see by the background that we got some Japanese Pokemon cards as well as English. This is super exciting. All right, very first card. Let's pull it open and see what we have. Front one first or back one first, whichever you want to call it. And oh man, we already saw the label. All right, we got ourselves our Mewtwo Gx from Shining Legends back. And this was one that I was very confident was not going to be a PSA 10, even though we pulled this card straight from our own pack, and it's only an 8.5. And there were some serious issue with this one. What was the grade that I predicted that I was going to get? I wrote it down, and I predicted that it was going to be an 8.0, so that's exactly right. I'm actually surprised it got an 8.5, considering that the surface has some serious issue. So let's go over what we see right in front. This is my very first graded Pokemon card from CGC. First up, I absolutely love the slab. I think this is probably the prettiest slab I've seen in quite a while. I know some people aren't a fan of the labeling, but in general, this is a super sleek slab. It's very modern. I love the design. Before grading, this card was worth right around $40, and after grading, I would value this Mewtwo Gx Secret Rare at around $80, so I think that was a very nice turnaround. That's pretty much what you can expect with modern Pokemon cards that you do not get a perfect grade on. So next card, let's see if we can, what's the point? I'm not even going to cover up the labels. We're just going to get right into it. The very next card that we sent away was actually a vintage English Pokemon card, and this is our best of game promo Mewtwo winners card. Rocket's Mewtwo actually, and I love this card because it's very, very flashy. You can just see how much of a holographic pattern it has. Centering 9, so yeah, it has great centering. And the biggest issue with this one is definitely the surface. If I look on the back, I can see some whitening around the edges and some whitening around the bottom edges as well, but not too bad. What grade did we expected this card to get? In our original video, we actually expected it to get a 7.0 due to the surface issue, and surprisingly it came back as an 8, so this one is very nice. A Rocket's Mewtwo Best of Winners is worth around I think $80 is a good price for a near mint 8 condition one. So not too shabby. This card I actually don't have a real cost on because I pulled this card from a Pokemon mystery box, guys. We're grading a Pokemon card that we got from a mystery box. That's really cool. But $80, I'm happy with that. Next card up, I can see that it is a Japanese Pokemon card. And it looks to be a vintage Japanese Pokemon card. So let's see what it is. And we got, all right, we got ourselves a Rocket Dark Charizard. Actually, yeah, it is Rocket Dark Charizard. This card is really sleek. What grade did we expect to get on this one? In our initial video, we expected to get an 8.0, and that's exactly where we land. That is very cool. It's very nice when your card comes back as the exact grade that you expect it to get. And the big issue, all right, first big issue that I'm already seeing, centering 9. This card, centering 9, that's not a big deal, but pretty much all of our Pokemon cards so far has got a centering of a 9. And what does that mean? That means if everything else about this card is perfect, we're not going to get a 10 on it. It's impossible to get a CGC pristine 10 when centering is 9. So no matter what happened to any of these Pokemon cards, just because of centering, none of our cards would ever get a 10. And I think that's a big issue that a lot of people have been talking about with CGC, is that it's really difficult to get a CGC pristine 10. And I think that's going to really bite them in the butt later on, because not a lot of people are going to want to send cards to them if they have no chance of being a 10. That's a big issue, I think, and they're going to find that out later on as they start grading more cards. But yeah, you don't want to be too harsh on centering because that's so out of control of the collectors. But yeah, Dark Charizard. Oh yeah, let's talk about the value. So this Dark Charizard I actually got for free. So what happened was I purchased a bunch of products from a Japanese seller on eBay, and very normally they would send you free gifts or freebies for purchasing cards from them, and this Dark Charizard was actually a free gift from a Japanese eBay seller. So really cool. It didn't cost me a thing, and so the only thing I really had to pay was the grading cost of CGC, which was around $15. And this card at a CGC 8, I would value it around $200, and that's actually pretty conservative. So a very nice card. Next up, we have another English card. So let's flip this baby over and see what we have. All right, we got ourselves the God Trio at a CGC 9. Not a single 10 yet, but that was to be expected. None of those cards I was going to predict a 10 anyway. So what did we predict this card was going to be? We predicted it to be at a 9.5. So we actually got a 9. What's the big issue? We actually got a 9.5 on 3 categories except surface. Interesting. I don't see any major surface issue on the front, but of course I'm not really super into it so far. I actually don't see any issues with this one. Nothing in terms of whitening, but they probably saw something that I did not. A 9 is not super bad. The big issue with grading modern Pokemon cards is that collectors love their 10s. You're going to have a really hard time selling 9.5s or 9. A 9.5 might as well be a damaged card to a lot of collectors. It's a massive psychological issue in the community, but it is what it is. And in general, this card at a CGC 9, I would value it maybe at around $150. So not too shabby. We definitely got some value gain out of that grade. So once again, not a single centering has gotten a 10, so that's a little bit worrying. Next card is a vintage Japanese card based on the back, and we're gonna flip it over to see ourselves. Ooh, we got ourselves our Fossil Mew. Very cool, from 1996. This Pokemon card is close to 25 years old. Wow. Talk about age, and really nice. So okay, what grade did we expect this card to come back at? We expected this card to come back at a, I'm checking my list, and we expected it to come back at 7.0. So we actually got a 7.5, which is near mint plus actually. So this is pretty good. Most people don't realize this, but pretty much everything from 7 till 9 is pretty much near mint, and a 10 is not supposed to be possible pretty much. A 10 is pretty much pristine, perfect condition, nothing wrong with it whatsoever. So yeah, the vast majority of Pokemon cards that you pull from your pack is going to be somewhere between an 8 and a 9, most likely an 8 or a 9. A 7 probably means the pack got damaged somehow, but 7.5, not too bad. So the story behind this card is I actually pulled it from Mewtwo Gx Mystery Cube. Wow, a Japanese Mystery Cube, and we pulled ourselves a Fossil Mew card. This card I don't really have a valuation on besides saying that the Mystery Cube cost me 4,000 yen, which is around 40 bucks. And this card is worth right around $50 right now for a 7.5 near mint. Great card. If you can get this card in a pristine 10, then you're looking at $2,000. So a very sought after card. I think this is actually one of the first appearances of Mew, and it's a great holographic pattern. Mew looks super cute in it, so very popular card. All right, this is cool. I'm enjoying this, having absolute blast. Let's see what the next card is. And it is a vintage Japanese Pokemon card based on the back. So let's flip it over and we have, oh yeah, that's a cool one. Our Typhlosion. Well, it's called Typhlosion 17 in English, which is a super popular Pokemon card, but in Japanese this card is actually a Typhlosion number 57, which is actually just Typhlosion's card number, Pokemon number rather than a card number. They didn't really do set number until later on in Japan, and this is a very, very nice card that I've definitely been highly sought after. Interesting grade. Once again, centering, we only got an 8 for a vintage Japanese Pokemon card. What does this mean? This pretty much means I can guarantee you, you're not gonna get a CGC 10 on any vintage Japanese Pokemon cards. Probably vintage English as well, because the centering on the vintage cards are really, really bad. And if they're gonna ding you for that, you're never gonna get a 10. It's just not possible. And this card, not bad. Pretty decent centering actually, but an 8, but that means it was never going to get a 10 no matter what, even if the other scores were great. And the surface actually got a 6.5, so a little bit low. What grade did we expect this one to come back at? Looking at my list, wow, we expected it to come back as a 7.0, so we got right on the money. This one is definitely a 7. So this is another card that I pulled from my Mewtwo Gx Mystery Cube. And in a CGC 7, I would expect the value of this card to be right around $100. So we seriously made our monies back with that card. Great card. Next one up. And let's flip it over. We have ourselves a English Pokemon card. And all right, this is one that I'm super excited about getting back. And that is our birthday Pikachu. Wow, what a gorgeous card. Check out that centering. 9.5 on the centering. That is the best score we've gotten on centering yet. So very, very nice and a really solid card. We have not seen a 10 on centering on any card. So that is really funny. They must be really hardballer when it comes to centering. On the back, not too shabby. This is actually a really solid card. Looks like there's a little bit of dust on it, but the card itself is really nice. This is definitely an 8. Looking at my list, we predicted that our Pikachu, birthday Pikachu, will come back as an 8, and it's exactly where it is, so perfect. I purchased this Pikachu card last year for $40, and right now, after being graded by CGC, I would value this card at around $250 conservatively. So a great solid investment. I'm very happy with this card. I think you really, really should be sending in some near mint Pokemon cards to CGC, because the important thing is not so much the grade, because you're never going to get a 10 with CGC. It's so unlikely. So the thing that I would focus more on is getting them encapsulated and authenticated. That's the most important thing with CGC. And very next card. All right, we got our Gardevoir back. And this one I was very confident was not going to be a 10. And the big issue of this one was that centering again, which is really, really frustrating because he got a 9.5 on everything else. So a really solid card, but getting dinged on the centering. And this one, I knew the centering was poor. If I look at it, there's just not enough on the left compared to the right. So definitely one that we knew we were going to get dinged on the centering. And that was very important to me as well, was to check on how important they would consider the centering, and they really, really care. So that's going to be frustrating because this was a card that was never going to get a 10 no matter what. So not too shabby. This was a pack fresh card too, Gardevoir 9. Not too bad. How much is it worth right now? Probably around $50 to $60 in the graded condition that it is. So not too bad. And another thing I wanted to check out was, I think it was the Typhlosion. The Typhlosion card was really curved. It was a heavily curved card. And as I expected, they did not ding me on that. Do not worry if your Pokemon card is very curved. That is not one of the grading criteria. So it's not a big deal if your Pokemon card is curved. They'll work it out for you. And looks like we got one more Pokemon card in here, and this would be a modern Japanese back Pokemon card. So this is probably going to be our Raikou, our amazing rare Raikou, which is one that I thought would be a pristine 10. So let's see what grade it got. And wow, oh man, that hurts. It's a CGC 9.5. Check that out. A 10 on centering. It does actually happen. And even when we got a 10 on centering, we still did not get a pristine Pokemon card. We actually ended up with a Gem Mint 9.5. And I think this is going to be the big issue with CGC, is that if you can't get a 10 with them, no matter how good the card is, and if, you know, like, I'm sure it's possible, there are pristine 10 copies of cards out there, but it's very, very difficult to get a pristine 10, then people are not going to send in Pokemon cards because they're going to want a 10. This card would very likely have gotten a PSA 10 or a BGS 9.5 or a BGS 10. So if the other graders are more lenient and you're likely to get a 10 with one of them, you're going to go with them because a CGC 9.5 might as well be trash. I'll be honest, it's not something I would like to say, but it is what it is. A Raikou pristine 10 is probably worth around $200 to $300. In 9.5, you're looking at closer to, you know, $80 or $100. So it's a significant difference for pretty much no different. This card is pretty much as close to pristine 10 as it gets, with this tiniest of difference really separating it apart, but not too bad. We predicted that I was going to get pristine 10 and it came back as 9.5, so pretty dead on. I'm not too frustrated with that. My big issue is I'll probably not send too many more modern Pokemon cards to CGC, and I think they hit a really sweet spot with the vintage Pokemon cards though, because grades 8 and 7 is exactly what I want to see for these vintage Pokemon cards that are not in perfect condition, but well deserving of being graded still. We actually have one more Pokemon card, and that is our Ancient Mew. It actually came in a box on its own because this is an error Pokemon card, and we really wanted to test out how CGC would grade an error Pokemon card, so I'm actually really excited about this one. Did they really give us a whole entire case for it? And it looks like they did. Check that out. A whole entire case for one Pokemon card. So very cool. Check out that back. Check out that back. That is an Ancient Mew back if you've ever seen one. And this is actually the Japanese Ancient Mew. It's actually a different version than the English Ancient Mew. So let's see what grade it got. And did they recognize that it was an error card? So let's flip it over. And wow, check that out. A gorgeous mint card. That's surprising. I did not expect it to be coming back as a mint card. And it is recognized as an error. You can see right there, it recognizes that this was the original version, and the error is the Nintendo error, where the card actually misspelled Nintendo. If you look at the very bottom of the Pokemon card, you can see right there it says Nintendo instead of Nintendo. So that's a very minuscule error. As well, it's got that nice crisscross on the eye right there, so that's pretty cool. But this is actually an error Pokemon card, and they do recognize that it is the error version of this card. There is a corrected version of this card. If there was no corrected version, I wouldn't even call it an error because it's the only one of its kind. But there is another version. There is a corrected version, and this is the error version, which is worth quite a bit. So this card, we expect it to come back as a 7.0, and it actually got an 8.0, so this is right what I expected. CGC is actually really good when it comes to grading vintage Pokemon cards at an 8 or 9 or 7, so if you've got some Pokemon cards that are not in perfect condition that you'd still like getting graded, I think CGC is a great option for that. I think that they're going to fall a little bit short when it comes to perfect Pokemon cards. Like if you got a really nice Pokemon card, maybe not send it to CGC because they'll probably give you like a 9.5 or a 9.0, and that's not what you want to see. You want to see a nice round number, which is 10. So yeah, an 8 is really solid. Yeah, there's no major issue with this card. Here's another interesting thing. I also got this card from a Mandrake Mystery Cube, and that mystery cube cost me $40, and this card right now is worth around $250 for a CGC 8. So really nice card. I'm glad to have it, and definitely a really great investment. So wow. Alright everybody, that's the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching. What is my final verdict on CGC grading? I am really happy with their turnaround time. They said that it was going to take around 4 weeks, and they were dead on the money. It took exactly 4 weeks, so that's great. They did not take 8 months like some other grading services, so not too shabby. The slabs themselves look really sleek. I actually think this might be my favorite kind of slab that I have for grading right now. The PSA slabs as well as the BGS ones are just a little bit more old-fashioned. I think this new design by CGC is really sleek, and they really nailed the money on how I would like my cards graded. And this is really down to preference. I'm sure some of you would say that you prefer the PSA or the BGS slabs, but I dig these slabs. They look really, really nice and sleek in this new modern age format. So that's great. The next big thing is going to be the grades that they gave our cards. In general, we predicted a lot of grades, and we were pretty much dead on the money on pretty much every single card. There were a little bit of differences, like I expected a pristine 10 for the Raikou, and instead we got a 9.5, but that's super marginal. In general, I think their grades were very accurate. I don't have any major issues with the grading itself. I think one of the issues you will have is if you are looking for a CGC pristine 10, you're going to have a really hard time getting that 10. I can already tell you that there's just so many little things that they're going to ding you on that it's going to be very difficult to get a 10. A 9 or a 9.5, you can probably get that any day of the week. But if you want a 10, you're going to have a really hard time. And I think it's going to deter a lot of collectors from sending in cards to them. What cards will I continue to send into CGC? Because I will send more cards into CGC. I think the real sweet spot for cards with CGC is going to be those 9 to 7 cards, cards that are not perfect, but you still want encapsulated and authenticated. Something like a birthday Pikachu or a Typhlosion 157. Those are perfect. Like these are perfect because I knew they were not going to be pristine 10, but just the fact that they've been encapsulated and graded raises their value so much that it was well worth it to get these cards graded. Something like the Era Mew perfect, I would probably not send something modern to them like Gardevoir or Raikou. I think that really deters. You're not going to get as much out of the grade as the vintage Pokemon cards, so that's what I will continue to send into them. All right, in general, super happy with these. I really enjoyed it, and I will continue to use CGC going forward. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been insightful. If you guys have any questions on any of the things that we talked about in today's video, then let me know down in the comment, and I would be more than happy to answer your questions. So yeah, once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.